Alrighty, so it's been a while. So what I want to work on right now is the magazine ad layouts. And at this point, I have a pretty good idea of what I want to do and how I like to do everything. And I've already done it like 3 other different times. So really, it's pretty much just finding new ways to do the same idea. But I did have someone give me a new idea that I actually wanted to try out with these designs specifically. So the idea that I was given was basically to take pictures of some stuff. In this case, I'm going to do the shoes, kind of like straight down. So that way, whenever I do the collage sort of design with the shoes or whatever, I can then take the pictures of the shoes or whatever else I want to add and bring them into the photograph. So it almost looks like I'm looking at someone's desktop. So it's almost like if this was my canvas and then I just took out the shoe and I put it right here so you can see the design here. And then maybe like off to the corner or off, wherever you can see the other part of the shoe here, or, maybe there's a lace going through it. And I think it'll be cool because it'll make it seem like you're actually looking at someone's desk or at a certain like scene rather than just some kind of image that I made in Photoshop or a collage that I scanned in. Not only will it help differentiate these designs from the other ones I've done, but I think it'll also work really well for this specific scenario because it's like someone's flipping through a magazine and then they get to this ad and it literally looks like they're looking at something on the desk that they're, reading the magazine on. So anyways, that's the concept. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna get the shoes. I'm just gonna try to take a... So anyways, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the shoes, I'm gonna just kind of arrange them on here. I'm gonna, do it in some different locations, try to take the pictures at some different angles and stuff. So maybe it's, kind of coming off one side or at the top, or maybe the laces are coming through, just a bunch of different variations so I can kind of play around with it in post and figure out exactly how I want to lay everything out. But really it's just going to be doing some, I guess, like top-down photography, just trying to get some interesting assets that I can kind of build a scene with. So yeah, I'm going to do that, and then we can start designing the actual designs for the magazine layouts, and then we should be pretty good to go. We'll put it all together and see what happens in the end. Alright, so I think I've got the photos that I need right now. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create the actual collage designs that are going to be kind of the main focus of the magazine layouts. And then from there, what I'll do is I'll add in the photographs that I just took. Since the magazine layouts are going to be a little bit different than everything else we've done, I might change up the way that I'm designing things a little bit differently than before. Mostly what I've done is I've built something in the center and I've just made a collage based around that. But I might try to do something a little bit more where it's like, across the page or something like that. It just feels a little bit more appropriate to do something a little bit different, especially since we're kind of building a new scene with the photographs that we just took. So yeah, let's get started on that. All right, so I took some time and I thought about what I wanted to do with these versions for the ad campaign, and I think I came up with a good solution. So pretty much the idea that I had was I was going to take the pictures that we just took and I'll overlay them up here on the top and I'll just keep the background white. And then I'll put the Vans logo here as well as the campaign slogan here just in the white space, and I'll make sure that it kind of blends together so it looks like the shoes are on top and that the type is below, something like that. And then down here, I'll build like a band down here of all the different assets that we've been using as well as a picture of the shoes. So that way you can actually see what the shoes look like as well as kind of up here with the kind of flat scene that we're building. So that's the idea so far. I tested it out in Photoshop just to see what it would look like, and I think I liked how it looked. So I kind of just want to play around with it with the actual assets and, cut stuff up and move stuff around, actually do it physically rather than digitally. And I think hopefully we'll come up with something that looks good. And if we do, I'll just replicate that for the other shoes, and then we can move on to the next part of the project. So let's get started. Okay, that's about right. Part of what I'm trying to do is just make sure that it doesn't come off too straight or rigid, because it'd be very easy just to build blocks and then just cut it off and where I had like a hard line. But I don't want it to feel too boring or not chaotic enough. So I'm trying to find the balance between kind of keeping everything kind of down here while still making it a little bit more organic and not so clean cut. So that's my idea so far. What I do find a little bit troubling about this project, or at least this idea, is kind of getting everything to layer together well, because it's a little bit easier when it's like a collage, because you can just stick things together randomly and it'll kind of look okay. But since we're dealing with bigger blocks and we're kind of filling up the page in a different way, it's a little bit harder, a little bit different, especially because we don't have just a ton of assets to use. And so it's like you kind of have to use them a little bit carefully, because I don't want to have too much of one thing. Like I don't want to have too much of the red or too much of the checkerboard. So it's like, how do we get enough of what we need and what we want in order to kind of build this up without it being redundant? So the things that I'm thinking about, something like this might be able to work. I don't know if I love this kind of popping off. Like it's got a little bit of a gap, but I like how like this line isn't necessarily straight, and if this is taller, then it kind of has a little bit of a less, rigid look. And that's pretty cool. And I still have room to kind of play around with this if I want. Because like what I might want to do is put something on top, just so it's not got a little bit more layers. So that way it's not like, oh, here's everything and then here's the picture on top. Make it feel like it's actually part of, one image. That's what I'm thinking. So let me find something better than this. So like this is looking all right so far. I like this. I'm just wondering what to do about, because I think there's so much white on these parts of the image. So I want to do something over here. I don't know if I need to take some of this and like add like a small part of it like here or something, just to break it up a little bit so it's not quite as heavy on the white. That's kind of what I'm thinking. It needs more variation or something, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. Let's try that. Yeah, something like that maybe. Yeah, it breaks it up just a little bit more. And then I think, actually what I might do, I might take this piece that I had up here originally, just enough. I don't have too much red, hopefully not too much white, and kind of balance out the black. I think this is like a good first try. I mean, I'll scan it in, we'll see if it looks good, if I like it. Hopefully it'll come out okay, because I like how this is coming along. I was just kind of trying to figure out if we want to use this as the basis and replicate it for the rest of the images, but that's kind of where I'm at. That's what I'm thinking. So I'll tape all of this down, I'll scan it in, I'll give a shot with the images up here and the text and everything, and then we'll go from there. Hopefully we're good, and if it is, then I'll just record doing the rest of them and that'll be it. We can move on to the next thing. So let's get to it. All right, so I went ahead and I made a first draft, and that looks like this. So I definitely plan on revisiting this graphic just to make sure it's exactly how I want it. But as a first draft, I think this is pretty good. The only thing that I'm not quite sure about yet is the picture on the bottom half of the image. It's not bad looking, and it does help give a little bit more context to what we're looking at, but I'm not really sure if it's necessarily necessary. And I do think that it is possible that since we do have the shoes and the other parts of the image, we don't necessarily need to have it on the bottom as well. So theoretically, it could be possible that if we got rid of that, the graphic would still look pretty much the same. It would still accomplish the goal, and it would just be streamlined. But as of right now, I'm gonna keep them in, and what I'm gonna do is I'm going to make the other variations for the other shoes, and then if I need to, I can always revisit them and go back through them and remove that image from them. So as of right now, the next step is just to finish up the next variations and then move on to the next thing. All right, so I feel like I got the magazine layouts to a pretty good spot. I might go back and change a few things, but I think where they're at, we're at a good spot. So at this point, I now have about 3.5 things more left to do. So the next thing that I want to focus on is something more typographic. What it's going to end up being is a poster, but I'm also hoping that I can use it for a shirt design. Thus, the 3.5. But I think as of right now, I don't need to do anything else analog, so I can do everything else digitally. So next, I'm going to work on the typographic poster, and then a shoebox design, and then a new tag. So thankfully, we're starting to get to the end of this project, but we're moving along, and we're getting everything done.